Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to See the Stories. This is the signature segment of the 3-hour news show. Now tell me, does anyone here like to watch stand-up comedy? If so, yes.
Yes, I do.
Who is your favorite one?
Well, not stand-up comedian, but I love Nunu.
Okay, you love Nuno.
Yeah.
But in the international stage, we saw lots of stand-up comedian coming from various backgrounds. And I think I have one, newfound favorite these days. His name called Giacobbe.
Oh, and you're my favorite host.
So, Giacobbe is the first Bule or Caucasian stand-up comedian in Indonesia. Now, so let's take a look at the following story to find out more before we talk with him.
And she's like, harder, harder.
Christian Giacobbe is an Italian comedian who lives in Bali. He is often called Chris and comes from a family of lawyers. He was struck by a bout of wanderlust at the age of 60 and decided to travel the world. He has since lived in more than 6 countries and held different jobs.
He chose to live in Bali, Indonesia since 2018. Now, he then observed that interest in English language comedy was growing rapidly and decided to establish the Bali Comedy Club in 2020. Now, it's mostly featuring skits and materials in English amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
The club also offers comedy workshops ranging from writing techniques to delivery and performance. Although Chris took part in the development of comedy in Indonesia, he started gaining nationwide recognition after he participated in an Indonesian stand-up comedy competition. Wow.
And without further delay, we now have Christian Jacobi himself in the house.
Welcome to 3-hour news show on See Today.
Come stai, Christian?
Yeah.
Oh, very well. Sto bene, and thank you for having me.
Of
Yes,
course, it's
of
our
course.
pleasure. Now, from what we heard earlier, you came from a family of lawyers.
Unfortunately.
Why?
Yes.
That's really interesting. And you're a comedian.
Why did you choose to be a comedian? I mean, lawyers paid more, no?
Yes, but it's also a much more boring life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And how did you start it?
I actually started in Bali.
Oh, so no comedy stand-up career before Bali?
I did a little bit of theater in the past, a little bit of musical, but that's because I have a family of lawyers. So every time I had to go back to the pressure.
I see. So you prefer the entertainment world, right?
Exactly.
Yes. And what do you think of stand-up comedy in Indonesia?
Oh, it's fantastic. Stand-up comedy in Indonesia is thriving, but I think that Indonesia need an international superstar. Panji moved to New York.
Yeah.
Yes, I
But
like him
there's
too.
very few comedians in Indonesia who speak English. Like, look at Malaysia, look at Singapore.
Oh,
They
yes,
already
yes,
have
of
superstars.
course.
Yes,
They have Ronnie
yes,
Chang,
yes.
they Nigel,
They do.
which I promoted his show in Bali. And that's why it's important that Indonesian comedians start speaking English and start performing.
Yes,
So from Singapore and Malaysia, we have the doctor. He's a doctor.
Oh, yeah, Jason Leong.
I know that.
Yeah, Justin
Justin
Leong.
Leong. Yes.
It was in
funny.
Jakarta and
Yeah,
he's
Justin
coming
Leong.
back, actually.
Yes,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
yes. But
I like to see him on YouTube.
of course.
He's hilarious.
Me too. And Kumar as well.
Yes,
I
of
saw
course.
it.
Yes,
She's
yes.
hilarious. Now, aside from your choice to be a comedian, but why Indonesia?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't a choice of being a comedian in Indonesia. It was the choice of living in Indonesia.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful
see.
country. My son was born here,
Yep.
so I really love Indonesia. But on the other hand, earlier last year, I did a tour in Australia, and it went very well. And
Yep.
people told me, oh, you have to move here and you have to become a comedian in Australia. Why? Like, Indonesia has 200 million people, Australia has 30 million people.
And how did you process that?
I think that Indonesia has such a big potential.
Yep.
I don't need to go anywhere. I am right where I want
So
to
you
be.
plan to stay here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh,
and,
you're trying to steal a heart.
Yeah. Aw. But,
Ventilat.
yeah, ventilat, yeah. From your experience, 5 years here, what separates Indonesian stand-up comedy and other stand-up comedy in different countries?
It's the community.
I see.
Indonesia has a very tight community. There is the stand-up Indo community.
Yes, yes.
Usually, stand-up comedy is a very solitary job. Like,
I see.
it's almost like you against the other comedians,
Yep,
but not
yep.
here in Indonesia, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's say we see the more international well-known stand-up comedian like Ronnie Chieng, or probably we know Trevor Noah.
Yes.
We have also some other comedians, Matteo Lane.
Yeah.
Let's say they have their own theme, but what is your favorite theme to
Yes.
be brought up
Yes.
in your performance as a stand-up comedian?
Well, I take inspiration from my life experiences.
Yep. Yep.
And I have some unique life experiences.
Yep.
Recently here in Indonesia, of course, I talk about all the confusion and all the culture shock that I'm witnessing in this country. But of course, I also talk about my family a lot.
I see, I see. And we also heard that you are the founder of a Bali Comedy Club.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
And that's what I was referring to before. When I went to Bali, when I arrived in Bali, there was no English comedy scene.
Okay.
So I just created my own.
Oh, and you name it Bali Comedy Club.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
it's not
Yeah.
difficult to understand where is it from and what we do is it's very to the point.
Yeah, yeah.
How many are the members?
We have around 15, 20 consistent artists, but what we do is also we teach comedians how to become comedians. And Bali is such a big tourist destination that we always have traveling comedian coming and doing performance with us.
So the members, are they also mostly foreigners or all foreigners or probably all Indonesian?
Most Indonesian, but we also have foreigners.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, from which countries?
We had comedians from pretty much every country, from Russia, from Denmark, from South America, North America, everywhere.
So, okay, on that note, I saw like lots of these comedians, they pick themes that has been quite, quite familiar
Yes.
with
Yep.
the community and also with the audiences. But Indonesia, we're, as you said earlier, we're so communal. And also, we have like some tight cultures and all.
Yep.
And you being foreigner, how did you dig deeper into that? Did you also brought, Indonesian, let's say, daily life, or
Yep,
Indonesian
yep.
jokes?
Not
incorporated?
dating life because I'm married and I'm not allowed.
Or your wife will be illiterate.
Exactly. And my wife is not Indonesian.
Okay.
She's from South Africa.
I see.
But what I do is I mix English comedy with Indonesian references. Because the first thing that you want as a comedian is for the audience to understand and to relate to
That's
you.
right, that's true.
To be able
yes.
to relate to you.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, what are the example of Indonesian related theme that you
Yep.
probably...
Yep. Can you tell us some?
Absolutely.
Some jokes. Yeah.
Oh, you want some jokes?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Not
Later,
yet,
because
but yeah,
we,
just-
we want like a whole performance of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, let's say like a theme, like
For example, right now I'm doing my tour of Indonesia,
Yeah.
and I talk about my point of view as a bule to Indonesian food and Indonesian driving and Indonesian ghosts and everything.
Yeah. The food and ghost. Yep.
Exactly.
Very,
that got me. That got me.
They're the two things
Yeah.
Indonesia love: food and ghosts.
Okay, let's say, because you are an English-speaking stand-up comedian in Indonesia, because I thought because you joined the Indonesian stand-up comedian
I
competition.
was the first
Yep.
one in English.
You were the
Yes.
first one having it in English. What if your most or some of your audience don't understand or don't appreciate your joke? How
yes,
did you
yes.
deal with it?
How did, yeah.
During the show, I had to change the way I do joke to make them more Indonesian. But also, the beauty of it is that I received literally thousands of messages of people, I'm learning English with you.
Ah, that's awesome. Like, that's a side
Wow,
advantage, right?
It's-
Yeah.
And also there's another side advantage, which is when I do shows, especially if they're big shows, even the people that don't understand laugh because they want other people to think they're speaking.
That's actually a funny
Exactly.
trick, right?
All right, so
Yep.
we
Yeah.
will talk more. No, I'm laughing already.
Yep.
And
we can't wait for the full performance.
And he wasn't telling any kind of his set yet. But by the way, we are up for a break. Please
Yep.
don't go anywhere, and we'll be back with Christian Giacobbe.
Jacobi.